So she depends on the kid to be mature enough to make that decision.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so now you got that situation. And then when you hear about depression, or your kid want to commit suicide, or they shot somebody, or they was in a gang or something, then you say, oh my God, how did this happen?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, what we're getting at is a lot of these things have to, it kind of goes on what I said earlier about when the foundations are destroyed. You have to inject these things at a very, very young age, because it can get to a point where it can be outside of an intervention of God. It can almost be too late.
Yeah.
You know, and it seems like with each generation as they grow, maybe certain generations, their mind didn't start settling to 10. Now it's totally different. You can have some children, their mind starts settling at 5 or 6. And then now all of a sudden, they 5 or 6, and now you're trying to make these adjustments, and sometimes it's too late.
And it's such a, because now we are seeing, when I was young, we had to deal with the boogeyman. The boogeyman was, in my eyesight, and I didn't know this for a fact, but he was a beggar. The boogeyman was a beggar in my eyesight. Okay, then, like, get away from the boogeyman. But now the boogeyman is your uncle that's molesting you, or your cousin that's molesting you, or something like that. Now it's not the outside that we need to worry about, it's the inside we need to worry about. Sure. There was a time when you used to think about don't go down the street because that depends about that. No, but now we need to tell we can't even let our kids go over some of our relative house because we don't know what the relative is really doing. Yeah. And if they're not saved, they are liable to do anything. Sure. But and then you have pressure from everybody saying, let them go on over there. No, they can't go over there. Yeah. They can't be. Now, we can do a whole party with everybody here, but no, I'm not letting them spend the night over somebody's house where I don't feel they're safe in their side. Well, that's your brother. Well, that's I don't care if that's my brother. I don't care if that's my cousin. No, he drinks a lot. He smoke a lot, and I don't want my kids around drinking and smoking.
Sure.
Now people say, well, you too hard, you too strict. And I love this word that everybody gave us, controlling. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God.
But the issue with that, when people would say that, when you have a child, aren't you in control? See, sometimes we play with words until you actually just think about what you're saying. Any parent, when you have a little child, are you not in control of their life? Are they not totally dependent on you to live?
But
no. I want this to sink in because you said a key word, because people will tend to use that a lot. And let's deal with what it actually is. When you have a child, do you not more or less control their life? Do your 1-year-old tell you what they're going to wear? What they're going to eat? No, you do. You control their life. You take them here, you take them there, you control their life.
But let me take a step further, Pastor, because this is where the maturity comes in.
The control is not an ugly word. It depends on how you look at it.
But this is the maturity level of any born-again believer. Because when you first get born again, the pastor is controlling your life. The pastor is telling you you need to be at church every Sunday. Mm-hmm. The pastor telling you need to stop smoking. The pastor telling you that you can't be having sex with everybody. That's controlling, because you know why? You a baby. Yeah. You didn't know. You was living out there any kind of way. But now that you are under the blood of Jesus, I'm going to control I'm going to sustain you. I'm going to tell you what you can and cannot do. That's control, because you're a baby.
Yeah. Now, we're saying that, because I can hear somebody saying, no. the leader is trying to take some control of your spiritual life. Now, that doesn't mean you can go against a person's will. Now, before I hear this in the invisible audience, controlling that Jezebel, that's when one trying to strip someone's will. At no time can one ever strip somebody's will. So there's no thing of controlling to strip will. You know. So sometimes I have to say what we're not saying.
But what it is that I'm giving you a new way of thinking that you was accustomed to doing whatever you want to do. And as a leader, it's my responsibility to train you the way you should go.
Yeah.
Just like a little kid that you're training your 2-year-old and your 1-year-old and your baby. I'm training you in order that you become a good Christian and carry the cross up to maturity, so you can be a teacher yourself.
Sure.
You can't teach nobody if you are a bad student. You can't teach nobody if you a poor person that don't even come to church and you cheating on your wife while you in church. You ain't a good teacher. You ain't a good teacher if you don't even go to church yourself and you come on your holidays. You're not a good teacher.
Yeah. Okay, let's we cover quite a bit. Let's open up for Q&A. Like I said, those of you who've got a question, you can fill the information out, and hopefully before the broadcast is over. You got to do it right now, and hopefully we can answer your question before the broadcast is over. So basically, whatever we covered, or doesn't even have to be what we covered.
Amen. I'm trying to rethink my question. Okay, with children, since we're on that, what I've been thinking, I've been not comparing, but just looking at my childhood and how my parents did me with how I do certain things with my child or my kids. Now, with me and my father, me and my parents both, more so with my father, there was a fear of, now there was respect because I respect him as my father, but I didn't cross him. You know what I mean? Not cross being disrespectful, but if I did something and I wasn't supposed to do it, and he asked me, did you do it? I was scared that I was going to get a whooping. Yeah. So you wouldn't tell the truth, right? So, but I guess at that age, I didn't have an openness where we could have that conversation. What is, or maybe an example, or did you have this issue, or is this something that you should really focus on when raising a child? Just because I kind of do the same thing, and I noticed it with my daughter. Now, she doesn't lie. I would have to tell her, like, listen, explain certain things. But then there's a fear, like, I don't want to tell you the truth because what I did, I know it was wrong. So is there a percentage or a balance between openness and fear or respect, if that makes sense?
Okay, now when you mean, let's deal with the first thing. Fear of your parent?
Yeah. Or the consequence. Like, for example, I lied.
You know what? Now, outside of we'll feel like you get afraid, there is nothing wrong with a healthy, now nobody don't read more into what I'm saying with this. With what you can call a healthy fear or level of respect, it's just like there were certain things I did not, certain things, I didn't do everything perfectly, but there are some things I didn't want to do illegally because I had a fear of going to jail.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So certain things I was not going to do because I had a fear of going to jail because I heard Big Bubba, like light-skinned boys like me. Read between the lines.
Gotcha.
And I had a fear of that.
Yeah.
So there were certain things I just wasn't going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as your parent, there's a thing of respect, and it could be with fathers, and I've known some mothers where, as a child, you did not want to cross your parent or do something that can cause them to get angry or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of normal.
Okay, because only reason why I say, because it was a small thing. I obviously am more of a disciplinarian for my kids than, not saying that Crystal isn't, but I do things a little bit different. Now, for example, she may have probably talked to Taylor, and Taylor's like, well, this is what that, and then I'm listening, I'm like, well, why she didn't tell me that? You know, so as a parent, she just be like, am I too hard? And then you look at your own childhood, and then I have a good balance, because, you know, we obviously, she's only 4. So it's not like I hate you, Dad. It's not any of those things. But I don't want to necessarily, which I've kind of backed off, you know what I mean? But I don't want to, we're not friends. Right. You know what I mean? Right. So should there be a balance between, you know?
Usually with both parents, as Pastor Laura and I, as much as we have in common, there are some differences we have. That, and when I mean differences, not opposites, but differences, where we're able to balance, where there was a balance in raising the kids to a point. You know, because generally, men can be, especially from my generation, we can be more stern, you know, like that. And so there had to be some balance of some things where, because how I was raised was, and we had all sons, all boys, and we had a fear of our parents to a point, but then as we got older, some of my brothers, that fear of our mother got a little bit less, but there was still always that fear of my father. Because he didn't say a whole lot. You know, kind of, sometimes with women, and we know this, naturally women talk more than men. I mean, that's just natural facts. Overall, you know, you got some men who go on and on too, but generally, women, you know, I forgot how the ratio of more hundreds of words per day they talk than me. And so sometimes it can sound like a repeated record with the mother. But then the father come in and like, you know, so sometimes that balance is important.
You know, one of the things, the tolerance level is totally different. His tolerance level is very quick.
Yeah.
And my tolerance level is like, I give you 1, you know, you might mess up 1 time, might mess up 2 times, whatever stuff, based on what mood I'm in. And then when that level gets to a level where I'm not dealing with you anymore, then I start making up new ways I'm going to get you. There's new ways that I'm going to make your life a living hell. You know, because as my kids grow up, you know, they know their fear they
literally mean this now. We want to be careful.
Right, no,
this
right,
is a Christian
It's a Christian, right. But I'm going to, you know how one day, you know, it could be real smooth, and it seems like it's real quiet, like no storm finna come. And then all of a sudden the storm come with, no, you can't go. What? I can't, no, you can't go. You know, something like that when you really want to go somewhere, and now you can't go. Because it was real quiet for a while. You know, I deal, you know, and what have you and stuff. And
so different ways of discipline.
It's different ways of discipline, you know. And so, you know, so hopefully that helped you.
Yeah. But a balance is...
It was a balance.
Yeah, there has to be a balance.
And the thing about this, we were raised different in how I approach things based on how I was raised. And he raised how he approached things based on how he did his mother. Me and my mother were very liberal. We talked about a lot of stuff. And I can talk to my mother like I'm talking to you. So that's the way she raised me, to talk to her that way. It wasn't like it was, oh, to others like, oh, you disrespect your mother. But no, that's how she raised me, to talk to her that way. You know, I mean, if it was my mother, she might want me to call her.
And I had to learn that as we got married. That Harley, you know, she respected her mother, loved her mother, all of that. But I had to learn that because a certain tone, how I was raised, that just seemed disrespectful. You know, I was still raised on yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
But I mean, really,
and
everybody
calling
in
my
family,
relatives, if you were my uncle, hey, Uncle Bill.
But my relatives
Aunt
didn't want you to
Lucy.
call them uncle and auntie. They didn't want that. My grandmother didn't even want her kids to call her mama. She wanted to call them Sarah. So it's the way they was raised. You know, she didn't want them to call her mama. So it's a different household.
Yeah. All right. Okay, online question says, I want my children to know my father, but he drinks too much. How do I handle that? Well, you can, there's something called the telephone. But then also too, you can you can, depending on, you have to use wisdom, play it by ear to a point. You can take your children over to see their grandfather.
Or you can have your father come to your house.
Yeah.
And then he just can't drink for 2 hours.
Or whatever it is.
2 hours, an hour, how much he could contain himself that, he might, if you can have him come over there, and that make, when you have him come over there, then you control the environment.
Yeah.
Then that means no drinking and smoking is in your environment, and you can do it that way, or you can have little dinners or stuff like that. There's plenty of ways to get them to come and see the kids. Have a little birthday celebration or whatever and stuff. Have them to come over to see the kids and stuff like that. But if based on you can have more people around, so it won't look awkward. But let them see their grandfather.
Yeah, there's a way to, like I said. This is not saying a whole lot, but especially if the father wants to meet the grandchildren, all of that, and you talk to them, about the drinking issue. There are just some things you can do.
So you want to be honest with your children if they ask a question, but how much should you share? So if they're dealing with something that you deal with at their age, and it's kind of embarrassing, or it's, God forgive, so it's a lifetime ago, but they ask you like direct questions. So how do you be honest with them, but you don't want to lose respect? You don't want your children to lose respect for you as the adult.
It really depends. It depends on the level of where the kid is, where they are mentally, and then there are some things. You can say and impart wisdom without necessarily getting into specifics, because it just depends, it depends on the maturity of the child, it ain't just be child. Sometimes you can have adult children and you may share some things because they're ready to hear. And then there's some things you don't have to always say with everything. There are certain things you can say. That's just like there are certain things if I'm preaching and I say some things and I don't get into specifics of everything, and I can say, listen, I know how it is. I don't have to, that could be from A to Z. I can say, hey, I understand. I hear what you're saying. Hey, I've been there. Come on, y'all hear me say that in some of my messages. So you can kind of be general in some things without necessarily getting specific all the time. And then there could come a time where being specific is necessary. For the child.
One thing that you have that God gave you inside of every parent is that you have an inside scoop on what your child is thinking.
Yeah.
Because at 5 years old or 12 years old, you know what you were thinking. And so if you were thinking about boys at 12, they're thinking about boys at 10.
Yeah.
And if you were sneaking and doing stuff at 9, but they sneaking and doing stuff at 7.
Sure.
So in other words, there's nothing new under the sun.
Right.
So it should not be surprising to you if you hear your kid did something because you once were that. Yeah. Or what they did was because it gets stronger every generation. In other words, you should be aware of how stronger the environment get every year. Yeah. In other words, the same thing about when I had my kids, we didn't have to deal with the internet. And we didn't have to deal with that. So now they got the internet out and all the kids got a phone now. Now you should be aware of they don't have to sneak out the house. They can just use their phone. in your bedroom, in whatever stuff, showing their breasts, showing their behind. You know, you ain't got, you know, it's so easy now.
Yeah.
You know, so now that you know this, then there should be no closed door in my bedroom.
See, the thing is this.
It's so simple to me. I guess it's hard
No,
for everybody.
no,
I can't
no.
close my door. No.
And this kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier in the early stages. When you really care about your child, you know, we really, really care about them because they're dependent on you for life. That's why I've always believed sometimes you have some parents who put this guilt trip on parents. I sacrificed for you. No, you didn't. I don't believe in parenting sacrifice. I believe that's what you're supposed to do. Dr. Quartermain, get your dictionary. You know, there's no sacrifice. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, if you really care about your child, you know, you would do whatever it takes. You know, in the very, very beginning. And then you stay connected to them.
Yeah. And the thing about this,
Praise the Lord.
And I can say for myself, Pastor, how stern I was in the beginning of a kid. Then when the 9th kid comes, you get lazier. In other words, when all the kids keep coming, like, oh my God, you know, I don't want to deal with you. Because I dealt with your hard-headed brother years ago about
But see,
this.
Now I'm going to debate on that once again. You know, I've said this for many, many years. If you are a selfish person, two things you don't want to do. You do not need to get married, and you most definitely don't need to have any children. You selfish, praise the Lord. You know, it's me, myself, and I. Hey, y'all three get along. That's all right. So when you like that, you don't need to be thinking about no getting married, no having no children. Because outside of God, those, especially a child, it ain't about you no more. That child literally, and I mean literally, is dependent on you for life, for their life, to live, to grow, to advance, to be able to make it to 2, 3, 4, 5, 12, 13. They're depending on you. And when many of them don't do it, it's because we failed as a parent. So now, to answer some of that question and what she was even saying, with knowing where you were at, you don't have to address everything, is if you connected with your child, you know when stuff is not right. And then she said, one of the things you have wisdom of your own experiences. And remember, the child came from you, you didn't come from them. So what will visit them will not be anything unfamiliar that you had not visited before. See, that's when you stay connected to your child. They can even lie and you will know they lying. See, because when you connect it from day one, now remember this, and I've said this years ago, you know their expressions. Their mouth could be moving, saying anything, but you know the truth in their eyes because you connected to them. And the thing about that never changes. The same expression your child looked at when they got hurt in 5th grade, that same expression will be on them when they're 50 years old. It'll just be on an older face. That's the connection that a parent will forever have with their child. So now when things have went off left field and a parent like, I don't know how to, somehow, somewhere along the line, you pulled the plug and got disconnected. Because if you stay plugged in and stay connected, you'll see those things. And there are certain things you'll be able to catch before it happens. Because you'll see, okay, I see what's happening here. As Pastor Lord said, when I was that age, okay, I knew how that looked. I know that look. Because I had that look. I know that smell. Because I had that smell. Come on, when you stand connected. That's real life, folks. You don't believe me? Keep living.
Yeah.
And those of you with parents, if you think about it, you know, that same expression your 3-year-old had, now they 18 years old or 19 years old, and you could ask, hey, what's wrong with you? And they say, oh, nothing. You know they lying. You know it, because that expression does not change.
And you know, and even when the child do not tell your parent, because I was a kid that didn't tell my parent like something really spooky about to happen, or something spooky did happen to me, and consciously in my head, I remember so well what I was thinking at that time, you know, because I had a confrontation with this guy. He tried to rape me, and so when I went home, I didn't say nothing to my mother because I said, you know what, if you was at home, this would never have happened. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, you know what? If you cared about me, you had been at home when it's time for me to get out of school. But since you wasn't at home, I got it. This guy was trying to rape me. So you don't deserve to know this, even though I was hurting myself. But I was thinking that you don't deserve to know this because you know why? You wasn't there when I needed you. So in other words, since you wasn't there for this, you're not going to be there. I'm not going to tell you what happened to me on that one. Because you know why? You wasn't there. My mother had 2 jobs. Now, when you're a kid, you don't think about your mother working and trying to make money. But I'm looking at it like, no, you wasn't there. Since you wasn't there, I'm not going to tell you what's going on with me because you don't care enough to stop.
Sure.
Now, that's what I was thinking when I was a little girl and stuff. The stuff happened to me, I didn't tell her. Why would I tell her? Because you're not here. And so, and people think that, and I have tried to tell people, including my own kids, this is what they're thinking, and no, this is what they're thinking, because I was the one that raised up. See, none of my kids have not been raised up without their father. So I know for a fact what you're thinking without a father. Because I was raised up without a father. So I'm telling you, this is what they're thinking. No, they're not thinking.
No,
No,
but
this is what they're
that was
thinking.
just you. That ain't
just
me.
you. That's not me. This is what they think. They think
There's
like
nothing
you.
new.
Look, boy, you're not here. So I'm telling you, you cannot parent from 50 miles away. But you know what? You're special.
Yeah, you can be special.
You're special.
But it don't change the
You
laws.
are special.
All right. All right. Come on, keep going. Come on. Next, come on down. I hope everybody's getting there. This ain't depression or nothing like that. I hope.
So
real answers, you know. Hey, we here to help.
So, you know, I'm so glad you said that, Pastor, because you must have been reading my mind, because sometimes, just even right now, as a youth pastor, that is what I'm hearing. You ain't there, so how you gonna tell me? I can't tell you this because you ain't there. And I think sometimes even in my pastorship, you know, people get it twisted, like I want to find out information. I just want to live. I just want people to be saved and be filled with Jesus. And so I want you to give an example, because sometimes I'm a visual learner. Maybe people need to hear concrete examples of what you did to instill values. What did you do? What did you do for us to instill values? Because I know how it can get twisted and say, well, you know, X, Y, and Z is not doing this, and the other. But you set a bar. So what did you do to set that bar? Whereas, you know, obviously we all have free will to make the choice to do what we need to do. But at the same token, you created an atmosphere for us to do what we need to do, or to speak to you, or, you know, as you said, be connected when we came in the house, even at 36. And if my mother asks what's wrong and I say nothing, she knows something's wrong. I mean, you know, so, you know, I just want to shift that of like concrete examples of what you guys did, like, you know, even growing up with, raising us and everything.
Well, the key thing, and it's not that none of us have perfectly crossed every T and dotted every I. None of us. But however, one of the best things you can do as a parent is be an example. And what I mean is be a living example. You're not an example by just talking. See, you can't tell your child to be disciplined and you're lacking it. You know, I used to tell people this years ago, because there was this thing about, you know, say no to drugs. And I used to tell people, you can't tell a child to say no to drugs and there's beer in your refrigerator. Can't do that. Now I know somebody, well, drugs is worth a bit. Depends on who you asking. So that's the key thing of being an example. Like I say, not saying flawless or everything was perfectly done, but it's being that example, and not putting something on our kids that we were not willing to do ourselves. You know, we wasn't making them be something that we weren't. You know, we trained them in the way of their purpose, and we were talking about that the other day. Now, yes, people have their own will, but we've trained our children in the way they should go that they won't depart. What am I saying? We'll say our two sons. They are both still in what they were trained to do. Now, we debate on geography as such, but they still in the path. Our son Brian in the gospel music. He ain't playing secular. He has no desire to play secular. So he can't depart from the gospel. Our oldest son, he's still in ministry and pursuing ministry. So they're training that. They have not departed. Like I say, we just debating on geography, you know. But they have not departed from what they're supposed to do. You know, so all of that plays a part in being that example. Like I say, everything is not perfectly perfect because, you know, and everybody you go as you grow, and a lot of mistakes, you know, you can make because you just had a lack of knowledge. You know, that can happen with anybody. But then there are some basic things you just learn and do. That's just like, we were talking about this the other day. I'm not sure. I guess I would have to ask them. I don't know if our children ever heard us get in well, we ain't never got in no fight in it, but like a real, we ain't never got in no fight. This ain't an anime story. We ain't never did that. But a real, like,
Right.
art, you know.
You know, I mean.
And we've had some arguments.
Yeah, we had some major arguments. But the thing, I was so conscious of the environment. I was conscious of every word I said. Even when my kids was driving me crazy, I would never say crazy. I said bazooka. I said, y'all drive me bazooka. Bazooka. I can say bazooka all day because bazooka represent gun. So I would say that word. And then when me and my husband was going through, we handled our business at night. We didn't do it in the daytime. So we might not talk the whole day, but at night, we got something to talk about. And the kids are asleep, they don't have no idea. They don't know nothing until something major happened that they recognize and stuff. But I wouldn't let them play no circular music in my house. In other words, you brought a tape in there, they had to hide it under the bed, whatever they had to do with it and stuff. If I found it, I gave you a certain amount of days.
How you find it?
I found it because I went in your room. And I looked under the mattress, and I looked all over the bed. I looked everywhere.
But you invading my privacy.
No, you ain't got no privacy in here. You ain't got no privacy. I went under the bed. I went under the mattress. I sorted through the clothes. My kids would bring in new clothes in the house that I know that I didn't pay for. Oh, where this come from? Where did this new clothes come from? Because I didn't give you no money, so where it come from? I didn't give them no. So in other words, I was one of them nosy parents. Was like, I'm all in your business.
But you know what? See, she's saying it's not nosy. It's the right thing. See, we're confused. That's why we opened up with morals and foundations. See, we're confused on what's right and wrong. See, that's a lot of the problem. We're not sure what's right Now, see, when she said that, somebody got tight on that. You shouldn't be doing that. You confused on what's right. Now, I ain't coming against you. You can't do what you don't know. It wasn't a nosy thing. It was the right thing. You know, because any loving parent don't want their child messing up. Now, if you don't care about your child goofing up, and if you one of them parents like, well, they got to learn for themselves, I'm questioning your love. You know, any good loving parent don't want that, and we understand mistakes be made. We understand that, but you ain't trying to help them, and if you do whatever you can to avoid it, even if they don't like it at the time. See, they don't like it today. See, you ain't looking for today. You know what lies ahead tomorrow. So they can get mad. Mom, I'm mad at you today, but then you stayed out of jail tomorrow, didn't you? See, we still not sure what's right.
And there's nothing wrong with knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. Ain't no crime in knowing what they're doing. You know, and people don't want to deal with the confrontation and saying, where was you at?
Yeah.
You know, the game was over at 8 o'clock. Where you was at?
Yeah.
Where you was at? You know, I know what restaurant y'all went to. It don't take that long to get home. Where was you at?
Where was you at?
Where was you at? No, and then, you know,
what is that?
You know, especially my son had a car. One of my, everybody had a car. My son had a car. He said, I ran into somebody. I said, how you ran into somebody if you was in the car? If you was in a car, you shouldn't have ran into nobody. It'd be different you walking down the street and you stopping and talk. No, you're not stopping and talk. You should have got in your car when I talked to you.
Now the part with that, what is that kind of saying? You don't lie too well. Because we instilled in them not to lie. When they lied, we knew they was lying. And the Holy Ghost didn't tell us all of that. You just don't know how to lie well. Because you didn't come in an environment and raised with liars. Even though you lied, we know you're not. That wasn't even a good lie. I got held up. You got a car. What?
I have a couple questions. First one, say you say that no one should get between a marriage, right? Two people engaged in a marriage, nobody should be getting between them. What if a couple is married, their kids are of age, of a certain, like they're old enough to know kind of what's going on, and there's still a lot of like bickering and fighting between the two of them. At what point is it okay for the kids to step in and be like, hey, this isn't right, this isn't right? At what point is it okay, or at what point is it okay for the kids particularly to interject in a marriage? Because obviously, again, you have two people that, they're, whatever should happen between them should be between them to figure out. If they're not figured out, then when is it okay for kids to kind of interject?
You mean like if the kids, they still living with the parents? And
No. They don't have to live with the parents,
adult?
Your adult children who see what's going on and say, hey, you know what? I know marriage is supposed to be between two people, but this is what I see going on, and da 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 da. Is it ever okay to interject in
what way?
To say, hey, what you're not doing is right, or what you're not doing is right, and this is what you need to be doing, or just to correct them in that way.
Let me tell you this. When my mother, as much as I love her, and I knew that she was unhappy. I knew she was unhappy. And as much as I love her, I could not make her do what I want her to do. And I wanted her, when we moved where we live there right now, and I begged my mom, you can come out here and live with me and live out here with her. She just refused to do it. Now, it's her training of her mindset that make her feel that she can handle it. Now, I don't know that, but see, as an adult, and as an adult, and I kept on saying, Mama, and she just would not change the way I wanted her to change. As much as I love her, and I see you suffering in some areas, but it didn't make a difference what I said. My love was not enough to pull her until you see it yourself. Because it has to be, you have to see it. It's no much more than an abused person, and you keep saying, why you keep getting beat up? Well, I mean, you can look in the mirror and you can see the abuse, and you say, my God, don't you see it? And you sat there and said, yeah, but I just made Johnny angry that day. Or, just say, it'll be all right. And they have to see it themselves. Now, that's one of the things I have found out. And now looking at my mother doing some stuff that I said, oh, I never do. But I could not make her change.
Yeah, really, when you're an adult and your parents or whatever, and it would only come to an issue if I was in that situation and if one of my parents was expressing their unhappiness or something, then they're more or less asking me, kind of like, okay, well, what about, then what are you going to do about it? But if that's not the case, I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't touch it. Because really, that's like she said, it was a little, different, slightly different circumstance, but in any marriage, they have to see whatever, because some people, there are quite a few people who in marriages who are miserable, and they only stand together. I know people stay just for money reasons, for public reasons. I know some preachers, they with their wife for public reasons. Because it wouldn't look good on the ministry that they divorced. And miserable. That's when marriage, that could be with anything. Until you get to a point. And then sometimes we all have to ask ourselves, how much is my peace worth? People stay in abusive marriages, like you said. It don't have to be physical, abusive, whatever. But as an adult child, unless, if my parents mention something to me, boy, your mama getting on my nerve, I'd probably feel a little uncomfortable with it. And if I see it's really, really bad like that, and they came to me like that, then you kind of ask me, I'm like, well, then what you want to do?
So they have to actually come to you, because what if you can see that, what if you can see someone's being taken advantage of, or there's emotional or some other financial abuse or whatever like that going on? You see it, maybe the party doesn't see it, but you see it.
I guess it's the matter of, I would have to be sure if I know that the other person is not aware of the abuse. Generally, and it depends on, especially if you're saying if adults, if parents, most parents or married couples, they are aware of what's going on. Like I say, you can just be it. I have seen couples just stay in it for several reasons that had nothing to do with love. And there was some abuse going on, there was adult going on, all sorts of stuff, But they just in it, like I say, for money reasons. I used this particular, she knew the kids, they'd be lapsing every now and then. But that husband, she'll keep up and be asking me about, if something happened to him, do I call you or do I come like?
Not the word, but it's really fear.
So yeah.
That going nowhere.
Yeah.
That we're going to stay. So in other words, when you have fear,
Understand it. It did or it didn't work. No, you didn't. You didn't do it, because that would make him a liar. Now, they might have tried it, a couple weeks, but it don't work like that. We don't try this. We do this.
Exactly.
So there's nothing on you. They probably just didn't keep doing it.
Okay, and then now I have another one. It's more of, I have a couple of people that I know that their family is in the ministry, and then their parents come into the ministry. They understand it more than their parents do. But then I always see at my job to whereas people are talking about their parents because they don't understand it. Or I may hear them talk about their parents and I don't care for it. Should I address it? Because simple fact is they belittling their parents because they don't understand the word.
Also, so the adult children belittling their parents?
because they don't understand the word, the concept of the word, as well as they claim to know.
Well, if you have that kind of relationship with them, to say you shouldn't do that. Don't do that about your parents. See, because, and you can say it in a way, listen, we're all learning. You know, you could kind of remind them, you know, what you know now, you didn't know that 5 years ago. You know, and you pray your parents will learn more tomorrow. So we don't have that right to ever talk about somebody because they don't have the revelation or the knowledge we now have. Because what we know now, we didn't always know it.
So my question is about having school-age children. So if you are a Christian family and you have kids that go to school, is it the parents' responsibility to share their beliefs with the teacher so that, for example, like if there's in younger grades, they talk about like the Easter Bunny and, you know, these fictional characters, or when students get older, maybe it's parts of sex education that maybe your family doesn't believe in. Is it should the parent speak with the teacher and share with them this is their belief so that maybe adjustments can be made, or should the child be excluded from those particular lessons? Like how should they handle that? And it's like a two-part question also. Just wondering, with whatever the response is to that, should parents also then, if let's say the lesson is going to be about the Easter Bunny and we just don't believe in the Easter Bunny, should they then correct that, and does that kind of undermine the authority of the teacher? Like, so my teacher taught me this, but we don't believe in that. Is that having some sort of relationship with the student and the teacher?
No, it shouldn't. Because if what the first, and she said this for years, your first teacher should be your parent. You know, and most beliefs and everything should come out of the home. That no, you know, we don't believe in no Easter Bunny, we don't believe in Santa Claus, we don't celebrate Halloween, and all of those things is instilled in the individual. You know, I'm not sure how the school system works now, but when our children were growing up, if Halloween fell on that day, they didn't go.
Right. When Halloween showed up, my kids all stayed at home, and every teacher would ask the same question. I tell every teacher the same thing. We don't celebrate Halloween. They're not putting on costumes.
Right.
And what I got into a good rhythm where some teachers would even save the candy and then give them the candy the next day or whatever and stuff. But they was not going to do that, even to the fact of they understood fishing and non-fishing. In other words, they know this is nothing but a game. You know, they know that we didn't have the rabbit and all that stuff. I didn't have to confront no teacher because I just stood, they knew
Right.
it at home. They just knew it at home. So when you went to school, they knew what they could not do. You know, they just knew that, you know, we don't celebrate this, we don't do this, and we don't act this way and stuff. Now, if they did it behind my back, that's something different. But I instilled it so well in them that they automatically knew they weren't going to school for Halloween.
Right, unless it comes up with the teacher. They say, well, why Johnny does not? Because, you know, we don't believe in that, or we don't
So
do that.
you know, we really, I didn't have a conversation with no teacher about, you know, them reading them the stories about fairy tales and stuff like that, because they knew it was a fairy tale. It wasn't like it was real. They know the rabbit can't talk. So they knew it was a fairy tale. And so in other words, even the cartoons, you know, when my kids were growing up, they only looked at, I think it was Channel 62 or 32. It was a Christian cartoon. 38.
Yeah.
So they had a Christian cartoon. They didn't look at Ninja Turtles. They didn't look at Ninja Turtles and all that stuff now because I was guarding them. You know, I didn't even, you know, parents had meetings. And then they would all, one parent rose up and said, well, I think my child should only play with black dolls. And then I talk to my kids when they get home. And I said, it ain't no such thing as a black doll, white doll. It's a doll. And I didn't want them to bring in no racial confrontation like this is better for you than this not. So wherever I see something trying to rise up to bring division, trying to make my kids feel like, you know, like you can't be around all kind of people. I would challenge it. I was not going to let them make my kid like, oh, you just got to hang out with this kind of people and can't hang out with that people. I challenged it.
See, the key is making our children feel like there's nothing wrong in what they believe.
Right, right.
See, when you get that in you, just like as us with adults, some of our belief, boy, your mama can't talk you out of it. You know, that's the key, is instilling in them that what they believe, there ain't nothing wrong with that. That what they believe is right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if they're not sure about it, then that's when it gets a little something. But you instill in them that this is what we believe, and this is the right thing to believe. Mm-hmm. And they believe it. No, it ain't no Santa Claus. Mm-mm. You celebrate Christmas? Yeah. You getting toys? Yeah. You gonna have a dinner? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who's gonna bring them toys? My parents.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of how that's done. That's instilled in them that it's nothing wrong with what they believe. And we saying children, that's the challenge with some of us, the adults, in our belief.
Yeah.
And then that's why when people come and be like, you really believe that? And then we make, yeah, you know, I believe it kind of, you know, I'm saved, but I ain't really that deep like some of the other ones. What is that?
I don't know how you have saved. How you
I
have
don't know.
saved?
I always say, is there such thing as half pregnant?
Half saved, half pregnant.
Either you're pregnant or you're not. So there's no thing as half saved or fully saved, really saved. Either you're saved or you're not. You know, so that's where it gets in the thing where a person is sure on their belief that this is what I believe.
Yeah, and be all right.
And be all right with it. You know, I ain't coming against you. This is my belief.
Yeah.
You know, okay. I think that's pretty much it. We're out of time. This has been Let's Talk About Marriage and the Family. God bless every heart. We'll see you next time.
Wasn't that an exciting word today? It was so great, and I'm so happy that I was here to hear the word. We're not out of word, but today we're out of time. On behalf of Better Life Faith Church, we would like to thank you for joining us for our live stream today. Before you leave our page, we would love for you to follow us, like us, and share us with a friend or family. If you like today's message, you're more than welcome to give us a call down below, and we'll get that message sent out to you. If you would like prayer today, you can call us, and one of our prayer warriors would love to come into agreement with you for your breakthrough. But as always, God bless you. When you learn better, you live better.